What if I told you that one of the most dangerous changes after 60 is not what you feel, but what you stop feeling? You stop noticing how little you ate all day until evening arrives, and you realize breakfast was toast, lunch was soup, and dinner was whatever felt easy to chew. You call it normal aging. Your family calls it a light appetite, but your body calls it something else entirely. It calls it a shortage of the raw material it needs to keep you alive, steady, strong, and reparable. After 60, your body starts asking for something in a way that is both quiet and urgent. It asks through weaker legs, slower recovery, thinning arms, bruises that last longer, wounds that close more slowly, balance that feels less certain, and a kind of tiredness that sleep does not fix. Most people think the body is simply wearing out. That is not the full story. In many cases, the body is underfed in the one nutrient it now needs more strategically than ever before. And when that shortage persists, the cost is not cosmetic. It is metabolic, immunologic, structural, and deeply personal. It changes whether you stay independent. It changes whether you recover from illness. It changes whether you can survive stress, surgery, infection, or treatment when life suddenly becomes harder than it was yesterday. Hi, I'm Dr. Becker. For nearly 3 decades, I've worked with adults in emergency medicine and age-related decline, and I can tell you that one of the most misunderstood realities of aging is this. The body does not become useless after 60. It becomes more selective. It becomes harder to stimulate, harder to rebuild, slower to recover, and less forgiving of nutritional mistakes that would have mattered far less at 30. And when I began looking closely at why some people in their 70s stayed strong, mobile, sharp, and resilient while others of the same age became frail, exhausted, and vulnerable, the pattern was impossible to ignore. They were not giving their body enough high-quality protein at the moments when protein mattered most. Today I'm going to show you exactly why this happens, what changes in your biology after 60, why your muscles, immune system, and repair pathways start demanding more from your diet, and the exact way to give your body what it has been asking for before weakness becomes your new normal. And before we go further, if you've watched several of these videos and have not subscribed yet, take 2 seconds and check. It costs nothing, and it helps this information reach people who are quietly losing strength and do not yet realize why. Now let's begin with what is actually happening under the surface after 60, because once you understand the biology, everything else starts making sense. There are 3 changes that occur together in almost everyone as they age. The first is sarcopenia, the progressive loss of muscle mass and muscle quality. Most people think of muscle as something cosmetic, something for athletes or vanity or appearance. In reality, muscle is your largest reserve tissue. It controls glucose disposal, balance, posture, movement, reaction time, and your ability to survive periods of stress. The second change is anabolic resistance. This is the hidden one, and it explains why older adults can eat the same food they ate years ago and still become weaker. When you are young, a modest amount of protein easily triggers muscle protein synthesis, the cellular process that repairs and rebuilds tissue. After 60, that same meal often fails to cross the threshold. The signal is too weak. Your body hears the message only faintly. The third change is reduced repair capacity across the entire body. Skin heals slower. Tendons recover slower. The gut lining becomes more fragile. The immune response becomes less coordinated. Taken together, these changes create a dangerous illusion. People assume they need less food because they are less active, but biologically they often need more targeted nutrition to preserve the tissues that protect independence, immunity, and survival. The appetite falls, the needs rise, and the mismatch quietly grows year after year. This is why the title of this video matters so much. After 60, your body starts asking for this. And what it is asking for is not sugar, not convenience, not another stimulant, and not a miracle supplement with a label covered in promises. It is asking for usable protein, especially protein rich in essential amino acids, and one amino acid in particular called leucine. Leucine is one of the primary triggers that tells your muscles and other tissues to begin rebuilding. You can think of it as the ignition key for repair. When leucine levels rise high enough after a meal, a pathway called mTOR becomes activated. That pathway then tells the body to start building, restoring, and maintaining tissue. Younger adults can often flip that switch with a fairly small amount of protein. Older adults usually cannot. The switch becomes stubborn. It takes more protein, and it takes better timing. That is why so many adults over 60 can eat what feels like a reasonable diet and still lose strength every year. The meals are filling, but the signal is weak. The calories are there, but the rebuilding instruction never fully arrives. And when that happens day after day, the body begins rationing repair. It prioritizes survival over renewal. You remain alive, but less durable, less stable, and less able to recover from the wear and tear of ordinary life. Let me explain why this matters beyond muscle, because this is where the subject becomes far more serious than most people realize. Muscle is not just what lifts a grocery bag or helps you climb stairs. Muscle is a metabolic organ. It absorbs glucose out of the bloodstream. It protects insulin sensitivity. It serves as an amino acid reserve during illness. And when people become sick, hospitalized, or inactive, muscle is the first major tissue the body begins to break down. Think of muscle as the emergency savings account your body draws from in a crisis. If the account is full, you can survive stress with far greater stability. If it is nearly empty, every challenge hits harder. This is one reason Frailty predicts poor outcomes so strongly after infection, surgery, and cancer treatment. Their biological margin for error is smaller. They have less reserve. Clinical studies repeatedly show that older adults with higher protein intake and better muscle preservation maintain strength longer, fall less often, recover more successfully after hospitalization, and retain independence at much higher rates than those with chronically low intake. And here is the part families miss. The decline often looks gradual until suddenly it isn't. One illness, one fall, 1 week in bed, one period of poor eating, and the person who seemed fine 6 months earlier has lost the strength that made daily life possible. Protein also matters because your body is constantly repairing tissues you never think about. Your skin, blood vessels, enzymes, immune messengers, hormones, connective tissue, intestinal lining, and the transport proteins that carry nutrients through your blood are all built from amino acids. Every time you heal a scratch, recover from an infection, rebuild after exercise, or replace worn-out cells in the gut and liver, you are spending protein. After 60, this turnover does not stop. In many ways, it becomes more important because the rate of accumulated wear is higher and the resilience of the system is lower. This is why some older adults say, "I just don't bounce back like I used to." They are describing a biological reality. The repair crew is still working, but it is understaffed and undersupplied. If you are eating mostly refined carbohydrates, light soups, crackers, pastries, fruit alone, or small portions that rarely include serious protein, the body has to choose which jobs get done well and which jobs get done halfway. That shows up as slower healing, more weakness after illness, more fatigue after physical effort, and a body that feels less reliable than it once did. It is not always dramatic at first. Often it is subtle, but subtle losses repeated across months become major declines across years. Now I want to be precise here, because precision matters. I am not telling you that protein is a cure-all, and I am not telling you that eating more protein guarantees perfect health. What the evidence does show is that inadequate protein intake in older adults is strongly associated with loss of muscle, increased frailty, slower recovery, poorer immune resilience, and worse outcomes during serious disease. And this includes cancer. Cancer does not emerge simply because someone ate too little protein, but when the body is under-muscled and undernourished, immune surveillance weakens, tissue repair suffers, and the ability to tolerate treatment declines. Lean mass matters enormously in prognosis. People with more preserved muscle generally respond better to treatment, maintain function longer, and recover with fewer complications. Your immune cells are made from amino acids. Your antibodies are proteins. The enzymes that control detoxification, repair DNA damage, and coordinate inflammation all depend on amino acid availability. So when I say the body starts asking for this after 60, I mean something very literal. The systems that defend you are asking for the raw material they require to keep doing their job. Without it, you are not simply lighter. You are biologically less defended. And that loss of defense can show up as weakness, susceptibility, chronic inflammation, slower healing, and a reduced capacity to come back from almost every kind of physiological stress. So what does high-quality protein actually mean? It means protein that provides all 9 essential amino acids in amounts your body can use efficiently, with enough leucine to trigger repair. Eggs are one of the best examples. Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, fish, chicken, turkey, lean beef, whey protein, and for those who prefer plant-based options, combinations like tofu, tempeh, soy milk, or legumes paired intelligently can all contribute. A piece of toast with jam and coffee is not a recovery meal. Oatmeal by itself is not enough for many older adults. A bowl of soup without substantial protein may feel warm and comforting, but it often does not supply the amino acids required to preserve tissue. The biggest failure point is breakfast. Many adults over 60 go through the first half of the day with almost no meaningful protein, then try to compensate with dinner. It does not work well. Muscle protein synthesis is stimulated meal by meal. If breakfast is inadequate and lunch is light, you lose 2 opportunities to send a rebuilding signal. By evening, you may finally eat enough, but the body cannot fully make up for the missed signals earlier in the day. In research on older adults, spreading protein across the day tends to produce better muscle preservation than eating very little early and a large amount late. A useful target for many people over 60 is roughly 25 to 35 grams of high-quality protein per meal, adjusted for body size, appetite, kidney function, and medical context. Some larger or more active adults need more. But the general principle is consistent. Each meal needs enough protein to cross the anabolic threshold. If you never reach the threshold, the rebuilding signal stays weak. A practical breakfast might be 3 eggs with Greek yogurt, or cottage cheese with fruit and nuts, or a protein smoothie made with whey, milk, and berries, or tofu with vegetables if you do not eat animal products. Lunch needs the same seriousness. Dinner should not be the first time your body hears from protein all day. And one more thing, if chewing is difficult, appetite is low, or cooking feels exhausting, liquid nutrition can help. A well-made protein smoothie or a high-quality protein shake is far better than another skipped meal. The goal is not culinary perfection. The goal is biological sufficiency, consistently delivered. Now let's talk about what happens when you finally start doing this correctly, because understanding the timeline helps people stay with the process long enough to benefit from it. In the first 1 to 2 weeks, most people notice something surprisingly simple. They feel steadier. Morning hunger becomes more stable. Afternoon crashes become less severe. Cravings for quick sugar often diminish because protein improves satiety and stabilizes energy. Within several weeks, many people notice better strength with ordinary tasks. Getting out of a chair feels smoother. Climbing stairs feels less punishing. Recovery after a walk or exercise session improves. If protein intake is paired with resistance training 2 or 3 times per week, the changes become much more visible. Over 8 to 12 weeks, body composition can shift, not necessarily through dramatic weight loss, but through better preservation of lean mass, improved functional strength, and a body that feels more capable. Blood sugar control often improves because muscle is one of the primary sinks for glucose disposal. Immune resilience may improve because the body is no longer trying to run its defense systems on a nutritional deficit. No, this is not magic. It is physiology. Give the body what it has been missing, and many systems begin functioning closer to the way they were designed to function in the first place. There are, however, mistakes that make this fail even when the intention is good. The first is assuming all protein sources are equal in practice. They are not. After 60, leucine density and digestibility matter. The second is underestimating the amount needed because appetite has declined. People eat what feels comfortable, not what is biologically adequate. The third is saving all protein for dinner. The fourth is relying on processed snack foods marketed as healthy, but providing almost no meaningful amino acid support. The fifth is ignoring muscle activity. Protein works best when the body has a reason to use it. Resistance bands, chair squats, wall push-ups, light weights, and regular walking all tell the body that the tissue should be preserved. The final mistake is waiting until major weakness appears. It is much easier to preserve muscle than to rebuild it after severe loss. And I also need to mention safety. If you have advanced kidney disease, you need individualized guidance from your physician before significantly increasing protein. If you have severe liver disease or a complex medical history, discuss changes with your care team. For most adults over 60 without those conditions, Increasing high-quality protein to an appropriate level is not dangerous. It is often one of the most evidence-supported nutritional corrections they can make. Look, aging is real. No one stays 30 forever. But the idea that weakness, fragility, slower healing, and declining resilience are simply unavoidable and untouchable is one of the most damaging myths in modern health. In many adults, the body is not giving up. It is asking for help in a language most people were never taught to hear. It asks through muscle loss. It asks through fatigue. It asks through poor recovery and low appetite, and that feeling that your body no longer has the same reserve it once had. And very often, what it is asking for is not complicated. It is asking for enough high-quality protein, given at the right times, in amounts strong enough to trigger repair. Start tomorrow morning. Do not overcomplicate it. Give your breakfast a real protein anchor. Make lunch count. Stop treating dinner as the only meaningful meal of the day. Pair that with simple strength work a few times each week, and give it 8 weeks before you judge the effect. If this kind of evidence-based breakdown is useful to you, subscribe, leave a comment telling me what your current breakfast looks like, and share this with someone over 60 who says they are eating fine, but getting weaker every year. In the next video, I'm going to show you the breakfast habits that quietly accelerate muscle loss after 60 and the exact morning routine that helps reverse that pattern. Keep investigating, and I'll see you in the next one.